Governor Connally spent a satisfactory night in Parkland Hospital in Dallas and continues to show every sign of recovering from his wounds. One of his aides, Julian Reed, was with him this morning when Mrs. Connally informed the governor that President Kennedy was dead. Connally expressed no surprise. He said it was what he had feared. When the first shot rang out, the governor turned and got a brief look at President Kennedy's face just before another rifle slug tore through Connally. Reed explained why Connally survived.
The president was seated in the right rear seat. Opposite in the left rear was Mrs. Kennedy. Immediately ahead of the president on a jump seat was Governor Connally. Immediately opposite him was Mrs. Connally. Farther up, of course, we had Secret Service, as you know. As Mrs. Connally recalls, just before they reached the triple underpass, the shot rang out, the first shot, and she feels quite sure that it did hit the president. Governor Connally, who was seated here, turned immediately to see what happened. And as he turned, he was struck.
Dr. Tom Shires, who operated on the governor, said Reed's analysis is confirmed by medical evidence.
Shaw and I agree, after talking to Mrs. Connally, that it's probably quite fortunate that the governor turned to see what had happened to the president. Had he not, the chances are quite good the path of the bullet would have been straight through and would have involved the heart. Whereas with his turning to look at the president as he did, this turned into a tangential wound and probably resulted in saving of his life.
This is Emergency Room 1 in Parkland Hospital, where President Kennedy showed the last semblance of life. His moribund form was laid on this table, and blood transfusions were given at once. But doctors said later they never at any time had any hope for the president's life after he was brought to the hospital. Now we switch to Tom Pettit at City Hall in Dallas.
This is downtown Dallas. The day is clear and crisp in this city where President Kennedy was assassinated yesterday. And here in the Police and Courts building, in a cell on the 4th floor, is Lee Oswald, 24, accused of murder with malice in the deaths of President Kennedy and Dallas police officer J.D. Tippit. Oswald is held one floor above us. He is held without bond. He denies everything. He has spent the night under heavy guard. It was here on the 3rd floor, about midnight last night, outside the Homicide Bureau, where Dallas Police Chief J.E. Curry emerged in a dramatic moment to announce that Oswald was being charged with the murder of President Kennedy. The investigation continues. This is Tom Pettit, NBC News, at Dallas Police Headquarters.
As we were saying, Oswald is under arrest. He is charged with the crime, but as yet the police have no word from him that would connect him with the assassination. It's all physical evidence. But we would like a report on that now by going to NBC's Tom Pettit at the Dallas City Hall.
It is just after 9 o'clock here in Dallas, and full-scale activity is resuming at the headquarters of the Dallas Police Department. Down there in this 3rd-floor corridor, a crowd of cameramen, reporters, newsmen wait for a possible appearance of the man accused of killing President Kennedy and a Dallas police officer, Lee H. Oswald, 24 years old. Oswald himself is up on the 4th floor in the jail section of this building. Oswald is held without bond. He has spent the night under especially heavy guard. Details of the continuing investigation are largely secret at this time. Police have told us they have 15 to 25 witnesses in their case against Oswald. None of them, we are told, saw him pull the trigger of the rifle that killed the president. 3, according to police, saw him kill policeman Tippit. Here is Deputy Police Chief M.W. Stevenson. And, Chief, what exactly is the status of the investigation at this moment?
The investigation at this time, of course, is in full force. We are working all of the men we have around the clock and attempting to run down leads on it, obtain witnesses, get affidavits, and follow up all leads that we have.
Now, is this in the matter of securing additional evidence against Oswald or possibly finding accomplices?
I would say it was primarily to follow through on information and evidence that we have obtained from witnesses and information we've obtained from witnesses up to the present and new witnesses. Any witness that we can find that might have the smallest information at all in regards to the case. We want to talk with him.
As we understand it, no one actually saw this man pull the trigger of the rifle that apparently killed the president. Is that correct?
That is correct up to this time in our investigation.
Now, what do you intend to do with Oswald himself?
Oswald was filed on, as you know, shortly before midnight for the murder of President Kennedy. He was arraigned before a magistrate and was placed in a cell on the 4th floor of our city hall, which is our jail. He will remain there until we have gone further with our investigation. I don't know just what time we will interrogate him further. Of course, that would be speculation. But what we do next in this case, as in all cases, depends on what we're doing now and how it turns out.
Does he continue to deny that he had any part in killing the president?
He did at the last time he was interrogated.
Now, what is your speculation as to what the motive may have been?
I try not to speculate on any crime. I don't think it pays to speculate on a crime.
Is there any feeling among the Dallas police force that this might have been avoided?
None that I know of. As far as being avoided, certainly you might say that it could have been avoided had you had someone in every window and every building. But the feeling among the Dallas Police Department, as it is with every other citizen in the country, is one of deep grief and deep regret.
Thank you very much, Chief M.W. Stevenson, Deputy Chief of the Dallas Police Department. That is the picture at this hour at Dallas Police Headquarters. This is Tom Pettit, NBC News in Dallas.
Now, Frank has reported that tests have been made on Lee Oswald, who has been charged with the assassination of the President of the United States. We are ready now with a report from NBC's Tom Pettit at station WBAP-TV in Dallas.
The full-scale investigation into the assassination of President Kennedy continues here at Dallas Police Headquarters, where Dallas Police, Texas Rangers, Secret Service, and the FBI are coordinating their information. The chief of the Dallas Police Force, J.E. Curry, has just reported to us that the paraffin test taken on the suspect, the man charged with the crime, Lee Oswald, the results of the paraffin test are positive. Now, the chief points out that what this means is that this proves that the man had fired a gun. He says it does not definitely link him to the rifle, which is suspected of being the murder weapon used in the assassination of President Kennedy. The investigation goes on. There are only partial fingerprints on the rifle, the chief says, and these cannot definitely be linked to Oswald. This crowd here is waiting to see Oswald in the event he is brought in for further interrogation. That's the situation up to this moment at Dallas Police Headquarters. This is Tom Pettit, NBC News in Dallas.
Confirmed here at the White House. That bulletin brought to you by my colleague, Robert Gorowski. Bob, have you noticed who has been going inside of late?
The persons I saw just a minute ago, Ray, were deputy and undersecretaries in the various cabinets. The limousines have generally been cleared away now. The last person I saw going in was Undersecretary of Commerce Fowler. Meeting.
Yes, Senator Pell just came. Here is the scene. These are the grand columns of the White House, the so-called North Portico. Number of reporters, photographers. You can see the guard standing there, the sailor and the Marine.
And the rain is pouring down, yes. It's been raining now for almost 2 hours, and anybody who's been out here on the White House lawn is drenched at the moment.
We've just received word that there's been some new development in the situation in Dallas where Lee Harvey Oswald has been moved to the interrogation room. He has been formally charged with the murder of President Kennedy. So for the latest details there, let's go to Dallas City Hall, NBC's Tom Pettit. We're trying to get the picture. As a matter of fact, that's what we're trying to do, is get the picture up from Dallas, Texas, so that we can get the report from Tom Pettit. And I think it's ready now. So to Dallas and Tom Pettit.
Opening. Here is the man accused of killing President Kennedy, Lee Oswald. He has 3 detectives around him. He is being taken from the elevator that leads to the city jail, down the corridor, into the Homicide Bureau, where questioning will continue. And as you can see, there is a tremendous crush of cameramen, reporters, detectives, and Dallas police officers around him. He is now gone in. That is Lee Oswald, 24 years old, the man who was arraigned early today on charges of killing President Kennedy, murder with malice. He is being held here without bond. He is also charged of murder with malice in connection with the killing of a Dallas police officer. The questioning will continue. How long, we don't know. But we have been told by the chief of police that after the questioning, he will then be transferred to the Dallas County Jail. Heavy precautions will be taken to ensure his safety. The chief is coming out from the Homicide Bureau again, and we'll move down to talk to him. This is Chief Curry of the Dallas Police Department.
We hadn't thought about it. I'll see about it later.
How long do you expect Oswald will be questioned at this time?
I don't have the least idea.
Can you tell us who is conducting the questioning this morning?
J.W. Prince, Captain.
He is the head of the Homicide
Also,
Bureau.
there's an FBI man in there. There's also a Secret Service man in there.
Okay. How many police officers are participating in the questioning?
That's the 3 that are there.
Just those 3?
Captain Fritz, the Fire Department, an FBI agent, and a Secret Service agent.
How did he get there?
Thank you very much, Chief Curry. That's the situation at the Dallas Police Headquarters, where the man accused of killing President Kennedy, Lee Oswald, has just been taken into the Homicide Bureau for further questioning. This is Tom Pettit, NBC News, reporting from Dallas Police Headquarters.
Meanwhile, in Dallas, Texas, where the president was fatally wounded yesterday, events also have been moving forward, and we have a report on that for you now. We are hoping to get to it. Basically, it is this. The man who was accused of killing the President of the United States, Lee Oswald, it is said by the police chief of Dallas, Texas, that the FBI interviewed Oswald a week or 2 ago, and the police chief said that the FBI did not tell local police of Oswald's presence, of the fact that they had interviewed him. And Chief Curry, Jess Curry, the chief of police in Dallas, Texas, said why they hadn't gotten around to informing us of this man, we don't know. Chief Curry said the FBI told him of the interview with Oswald, who has been charged with killing the president. The FBI told the chief of the interview last night after Oswald was taken into custody. Now, Tom Pettit is ready with the interview with the police chief of Dallas, Texas. We go to Tom Pettit in Dallas.
Behind the closed doors of the homicide office, Lee Oswald is being questioned about the killing of President Kennedy. At the other end of the hall, Chief Jesse Curry is answering questions concerning the events leading up to the arrest of Lee Oswald.
Communist or Marxist? There's a slight difference. I don't know.
Yeah, they say he said he was a communist now.
Chief, did the FBI or your department have him under surveillance prior to yesterday?
No, sir, we didn't have knowledge that he was in the city.
Did the FBI?
I understand that they did know he was here and had interviewed him, a week or 2 ago.
Did they warn you of his presence in the city?
No, they had not at the time we, up till yesterday.
Do you think they should have?
Well, they usually do. They keep us informed. If we don't have knowledge of it, they usually, in liaison with us, they usually let us know when these communist sympathizers or subversives come into the city. And why they hadn't gotten around to informing us of this man, I don't know.
Can you detail for us Oswald's movements yesterday, before and after the assassination, as you know them now?
All I know about it is that a man brought him to work yesterday morning. He had a large package with him, which we believe to be the rifle. The next we know of him, a porter in the building took him up to the 6th floor at shortly after 12 o'clock. And he was next seen on the 2nd or 3rd floor in a lunchroom in the building.
By whom and after the assassination was this?
After the assassination, by one of the first officers that went into the building and the manager of the building. The next knowledge we have of the man is when he shot our officer over in Oak Cliff.
Why is it that he was not arrested when the officer saw him the first time?
Because the manager said he was an employee. He said, he's all right, he's an employee. And in the rush to get up to the floor where the shooting occurred, the officer passed him on by when the manager told him that this is one of the employees.
Chief, are you aware of a letter that he is supposed to have written to Governor Connolly when Governor Connolly was Secretary of the Navy and when he was an enlisted man in the Marine Corps, asking to have his dishonorable discharge set aside, and which request was refused?
No, sir, I don't know.
bring this up because I have heard this report, and it might indicate that his actual target may have been the governor of Texas instead of the President of the United States.
I don't know anything about it.
Is it your belief that his actual target was the President of the United States?
Yes, I think it was. I think it was him.
Do you have any evidence to support that belief?
No, sir.
You have
Except
no...
that he hit the president twice. And he apparently was an expert marksman, and he apparently was hitting what he was shooting at.
Can you estimate the range from the window from which the shots were fired to the car in which the men were hit?
I would estimate it about 75 yards.
75 yards on the slant.
Now, what did you find in his apartment, Chief? Did you find some communist literature in his apartment?
Yes, we did.
Chief, you said that the FBI usually informs you if these suspected subversives are in your community. Were there others? If, for instance, if they had informed you about Oswald, what would you have done? Would you have taken special precautions on him with the president coming to town?
I don't know what we would have done.
There is no normal procedure for this type of thing.
That's right.
Do you think that the assassination could have been avoided, Chief?
I don't know how the FBI knew he was
here. But they did evidently interview him.
When did they tell you this, Chief?
Yesterday.
They told you yesterday after the incident.
Did they say what information they had gotten from him? Did they indicate that it wasn't enough to warrant telling you in advance?
I don't know.
Do you think
anybody under custody yesterday before the shooting? Anyone else?
No, we didn't have anyone in custody. We knew the movements of some people.
How many?
Oh, less than a half a dozen.
5?
Were they being watched?
Well, we knew where they were.
His marksmanship, was that something he perfected in the Marines, or?
That I don't know.
Chief, I hate to keep bothering about the paraffin test, but if it's on both hands, it would indicate that he handled the rifle. Do you know what they
I don't know. I imagine they took it on both hands. I only saw them taking it on one hand when I was in there. They were working on one hand.
There's a report that one of the detectives, the name of Brown, has said that the paraffin test on both hands was positive.
They probably did.
This indicates...
Positive on both hands?
This indicates that he only shot a gun.
All I know is this. I have the information, not officially. I haven't had a report.
So it's positive on both hands.
If you fire a handgun, will it show up on your hand?
Yes.
As opposed to a shoulder.
What does a paraffin test prove then, Chief?
Just proves that the man fired a weapon.
But you believe he is the man who fired the rifle that killed the president?
Yes, I do.
Did the FBI tell you?
From the office of Dallas Police Chief Jesse Curry, we have been receiving details about the movements of Lee Oswald before and after the assassination of President Kennedy. The chief has made a point of the fact that the FBI, while holding Oswald under surveillance prior to the president's visit, did not alert his department of that fact. This is Tom Pettit, NBC News, reporting from the office of Chief Jesse Curry of the Dallas Police Department.
Now we would like to return you to the Dallas City Hall and NBC News correspondent Tom Pettit for a report on the situation there.
Here at Dallas Police Headquarters, Lee Oswald still is in jail, still apparently maintaining his innocence in the killing of President Kennedy. The job now is the questioning of witnesses and the pursuing of other information. A man named Joe Rodriguez Molina is being questioned. He was a fellow employee of Oswald. Apparently, so far, there is nothing to link him to Oswald other than the fact that he is listed on the Dallas Police list of subversives. Oswald, we are told, has refused to take a lie detector test, saying he didn't think he needed to take it.
Chief Curry of the Dallas Police Department has made an appearance here to deny earlier stories that the FBI had some information on Oswald earlier and had him under surveillance. The chief now says he doesn't know whether that's true or not, but he wants to deny that he's accusing the FBI of not cooperating. He says the FBI, the Secret Service, the Texas Rangers, and the Dallas Police Force all are cooperating in the job now of digging up evidence and new information. This is Tom Pettit, NBC News, reporting from Dallas Police Headquarters.
NBC News correspondent Tom Pettit in the Dallas City Hall in Dallas, Texas, is standing by to talk with the district attorney. So to Tom Pettit.
With me at Dallas Police Headquarters is District Attorney Henry Wade, whose job it will be to prosecute Lee Oswald, the man accused of killing President Kennedy. He also is a longtime and close friend of Texas Governor John Connally, who was wounded, of course, in the bullet attack on Friday. Mr. District Attorney, do you feel that you now have enough evidence to successfully prosecute Oswald?
I think we have sufficient evidence at present to prove that he was the one that killed the president.
What is the most telling of that evidence?
Well, I don't want to go into all of the evidence here because we have to pick a jury that's going to try him, and I am refraining from going into any of the evidence that we have.
Suffice it to say that you now feel you have adequate evidence?
Yes, I feel we have sufficient evidence at present. Of course, we want more. The more we have, the better off we are. But if we had to go on just what we got, we have sufficient.
What legal steps now lie ahead before Oswald can be brought to trial?
Under Texas law, the defendant's charged in the justice court. Then the next proceedings is the grand jury. Everyone's tried in Texas on an indictment, which only a grand jury can return. Defendant's entitled to an examining trial or a hearing, a writ of habeas corpus hearing on whether or not he can justly be held without bail. Texas law allows people the only people that can be denied bail under the Texas law is a person who will likely get the death penalty. And he can have a hearing, either examining trial or a hearing before a district judge on a writ of habeas corpus to see whether remanding him without bail was proper in this case.
And this, of course, is virtually unique in Texas as compared to other states, is it not, the procedures involved?
Well, I'm more familiar with the ones here than in other states. This is a state district court.
What is the earliest you think he could be brought to trial?
Well, it'll be presented to the grand jury either Wednesday of next week or Monday, December the 2nd, one of those 2 days. It'll be set for trial within about 2 weeks thereafter. The defendant is entitled usually to 1 or 2 continuances if he asks for them. I figure that he will likely be tried around the middle of January.
Do you think you can find an unbiased jury in Dallas, Texas?
We hope we can find a jury that'll be fair to the defendant and fair to us.
And will you ask death in the electric chair for Lee Oswald?
Yes, sir.
That was District Attorney Henry Wade, District Attorney of Dallas County. This is Tom Pettit, NBC News, reporting from Dallas Police Headquarters.
He's Tom Pettit in Dallas, Texas.
It is just after 3:30 on a Saturday afternoon in Dallas. There is not a cloud in the sky. This is Commerce Street, and this is the Police and Courts building, where inside 24-year-old Lee Oswald is being held for the murder of President John Kennedy. The Dallas Times-Herald is out with a front-page editorial entitled, "Let Us Search Our Hearts." I thought I would read it to you. Terrible history has been made in Dallas, says the newspaper, and the magnitude of our city's sorrow can be measured against the enormity of the deed. John F. Kennedy, President of the United States of America, is dead, killed in Dallas. No matter what the explanation of the act, the awful reality of it overwhelms us. He died here. We do not know now, we may never know, why it happened in Dallas. And it is no comfort to our grief that an insane chance, operating with blind destiny, brought our president's death to us. But this we know, that as a city we must show the world the deep unity of our grief, the depths of the stunned void that is in each of us. Let us go into the open churches, the cathedrals, the synagogues, and there let us pray to God to teach us love and forgiveness. In the quiet of our homes, let us search our hearts, and through the terrible cleansing power of our grief, remove any vestiges of bitterness and hate. What happened here could have happened in any city, but first there had to be the seeds of hate, and we must pray that Dallas can never supply the atmosphere for tragedy to grow again. The bullet that felled our president was molded in an unstable world, but to our great sorrow, it found its mark here. So says the Dallas Times-Herald in a front-page editorial, and the mayor of Dallas has declared tomorrow a day of prayer. This is Tom Pettit, NBC News, reporting from Dallas.
There has been a new development in the case of the People versus Lee H. Oswald in the nature of very damning and incriminating photographs. For that, we go to Tom Pettit, NBC News, WBAP-TV, Fort Worth, Dallas.
Two rather dramatic announcements concerning evidence against Lee Oswald, accused killer of President Kennedy, were made at Dallas Police Headquarters tonight. They concern, first of all, a mail order of a rifle believed to be that which killed President Kennedy, and a photograph showing Lee Oswald with that rifle. It happened this way in the crowded third-floor corridor of the Dallas Police Department. Here is Dallas Police Chief Jesse Curry.
Statement. The FBI has just informed us that they have the order letter for the rifle that we have sent to the laboratory. They have that order letter that they received from a mail order house in Chicago. This order letter has been to the laboratory in Washington, D.C., and compared with known handwriting of our suspect, Oswald, and the handwriting is the same on the order letter as Oswald's handwriting.
While we are rectifying the playback of the videotape of this dramatic moment in Dallas Police Headquarters, let me recap for you what transpired, and then you will see as much as you can of Dallas Police Chief Curry surrounded by newsmen. He began to outline details of the mail order of the rifle, which is the weapon believed to have killed President Kennedy. This was sent to the post office box.
The return address on this order letter was to the post office box in Dallas, Texas, of our suspect, Oswald, and it was returned under another name. But it has definitely been established by the FBI that the handwriting is the handwriting of Oswald.
Was that a recent purchase?
This purchase was made on March the 20th.
Of this year?
Of this year.
And that did some good.
Chief,
What about ballistics testing?
The ballistic test, we haven't had a final report, but it is, I understand, will be favorable.
Is this the development you referred to today as making the case ironclad, in your opinion?
This was not what I had reference to earlier.
Did you say what that was? Were you referring to the photograph earlier?
No.
Where did these photographs come from, Chief?
Photographs were found out at Irving, where he had been staying and where his wife had been staying.
These are the photographs of the revolver and the rifle.
There is a photograph of him with a revolver on his hip and holding a rifle in his hand.
The same rifle looks like the one that you have that you think is the murder weapon, sir.
It does.
Does it have a telescopic sight?
It does.
How is he taking this information as it builds up?
I don't know.
Is he
aware of this
doing awareness?
I don't believe he knows all this as yet. I think the captain is talking to him about it at the present time.
Chief, has the order for this gun been connected definitely with that is the order for the rifle, been connected with the rifle which you found?
It has.
Chief, did he...
He came out into the interrogation room bitterly complaining about being deprived of his citizenship rights because he can't take a shower. Do you have any comment on that?
I didn't know he had asked to take a shower. We have a shower up there where he can take a shower if he wants it.
Chief, back to the photograph. Did he have in his hand a copy of The Worker, a communist publication with the headline "Be Militant" on it?
It seems there's two papers there. One of them, you can see the word "Be Militant," On the other, you can see the worker.
Is this the weekly worker from New York?
I don't know.
What was the name under which he ordered the gun? Was that OHV?
The name, the name on the return address was A. Heidel. A. Heidel.
Are you going to confirm that? How do you spell Heidel?
H-I-D-E-L-L.
Is that the name in which the post office officer said?
I don't know that.
Chief, you're pretty certain this is the rifle that killed the president?
Yes.
Did he buy the rifle with the scope on it, Chief?
That I don't know.
Are you on the way in to show him this evidence now?
I'm not.
Has he been shown it?
Captain Fritz is with him now. He will be shown this evidence by Captain Fritz.
Do you consider the case shut tight now, Chief?
We will continue to work on it and try to get every shred of evidence as possible.
How many photos, Chief, are involved?
I do not know.
How was the rifle
about the fact you found this morning, the new facts you mentioned this morning? Not at all.
Chief, how was the rifle described on the order to the mail order house?
That I do not know.
What was the pose?
You have the orders?
I said the FBI had the order.
Oh, I see. Did they get this through a tip? Do you know how it was developed, this evidence?
I don't know how the FBI got their information. We received some information ourselves.
As a tip?
Yes.
But that's definitely the same gun which had been sent to Washington.
Yes.
Can you tell us what
Identified by number, Chief?
It has a serial number which...
Let me say this. I can't say for sure on that. I can,
What's that, Chief?
he asked if this was the gun that we sent to Washington, the gun that was ordered. I can't say definitely on that. I don't know.
It is the same type of gun.
Yes.
The same type of gun.
Yes.
Serial number the same, Chief?
That I don't know.
But you say ballistic tests are encouraging so
I
far?
believe the gun was supposed to cost $12.78, I believe. I believe it was advertised in some magazine for that.
What was the Chief, you say the ballistics tests so far
I don't know the name of the mail order house.
The ballistic tests are
The
encouraging?
ballistic tests are encouraging.
You have the advertisement out of the magazine.
No,
which
I don't.
advertises it.
No, I don't, John.
Had Oswald ever used the alias Heidel before?
I do not know. That's all I have to tell you.
Thank you very much.
That was Chief Jesse Curry of the Dallas Police Department. Your vision of him obscured because of the number of reporters and cameramen standing around getting these latest details, and these are the most concrete details we have had concerning the evidence against Lee Oswald. Oswald was being questioned at the time this videotape was made, and afterward we got another look at him, the second look we had at him today. This is the third floor corridor. There's Oswald in the center, shouting something. We're unable to hear it. Back into the doorway, which leads to an elevator, which would take him back up to the fourth floor jail cell, where he has been held since 2 o'clock yesterday afternoon. That's the latest from Dallas. This is Tom Pettit, NBC News, reporting from Fort Worth, Dallas.
There are more new developments in the case against suspect Lee Oswald. For that, again, we go to Tom Pettit, WBAP-TV, Fort Worth, Dallas. Apparently they're not quite ready to report at WBAP-TV. We shall... And now again, let's try to go to WBAP-TV, Fort Worth, Dallas, for new developments in the case against Lee Oswald.
These are the latest developments in the case of Lee Oswald, as reported to us by Charles Murphy from police headquarters in Dallas. And that is that assault with intent to commit murder charges have now been filed against Lee Oswald in connection with the shooting of Texas Governor John Connally, whose condition here tonight remains satisfactory, by the way. We are told by Dallas Police Chief Jesse Curry that Lee Oswald will be held overnight in the Dallas City Jail. He will not be moved tonight to the county jail, which is the normal procedure. The probability now is that he will not be transferred to the county jail before 10 o'clock this morning. The latest report on the final interrogation of Lee Oswald is that nothing new was added. Chief Curry says he does not expect a confession because he's been in this business a long time. But he says he is very pleased by the new evidence he announced tonight, the photograph showing Oswald with the rifle, the mail order discovered by the FBI, linking Oswald with a rifle of the type believed to be the murder weapon in the death of President Kennedy. That then is the latest on Lee Oswald from Dallas. This is Tom Pettit, NBC News, reporting from Fort Worth, Dallas.
Lee Harvey Oswald has been given legal advice in Dallas from Lewis Nichols, president of the Dallas Bar Association. Now, here is a report on that from Dallas.
This is Mr. Nichols. Mr. Nichols is president of the Dallas Bar Association. He has been talking to Mr. Oswald, and he will make a statement for you if he desires.
Should we get your initials first, Mr. Nichols?
My name is H. Lewis Nichols, Louis-Nichols. I'm Nichols. I am the president of the Dallas Bar Association, the organized bar here in Dallas. We had been advised that statements had been made that Mr. Oswald was unable to get any Dallas lawyer who would make any inquiry about the representation, or that he was unable to get any representation here in Dallas. When I heard about that this afternoon, I decided that I should come down and make inquiry as to whether or not he was represented by counsel, whether or not he desired to be represented by counsel, and whether or not he would ask the Dallas Bar Association to furnish representation to him. I have just visited with him in his cell, and he advises that his first preference is that he be represented by a lawyer in New York, whose name I believe is John Abt, A-B-T. He then stated that if he could not be represented by that individual, he would like to have a lawyer who was a member of the American Civil Liberties Union represent him. He said that if he was unable to get anyone from that organization, why then he might call upon the local bar association to represent him. I asked him whether or not at this time he was asking the Dallas Bar Association to do anything toward representing him, and he advised that he was not, that he did not desire that we take any steps toward obtaining representation for him, and that if he was unable to obtain the other representation, he might at a later time ask us to do so, and did ask that I would check back with him at a later time to see whether or not there would be any necessity or desirability that we attempt to furnish representation for him. Having contacted him and satisfied myself that he was not being deprived of representation by an attorney, and having satisfied myself that he did not desire to be represented by a Dallas attorney, I then left, and that's the situation as it exists right now. My name is H. Lewis Nichols, Louis-Nichols.
How did he deny the shooting to you?
He didn't discuss the details of it. I did not ask him anything. He appeared to me to be perfectly rational, and I could observe no abnormalities about him at all in the short time that I visited with him.
What do you know about John Abt?
I don't know anything about him.
Are you going to try to contact Abt?
No, I'm not.
What did you say? What did that story?
He didn't say.
He didn't give any reason.
He didn't give any reason. I didn't ask him.
Well, who's going to try and get Abt?
I don't know.
How long were you waiting?
About 3 minutes.
Did he say how he was trying to contact Mr. Abt?
He said he had talked to members of his family this afternoon, and they would endeavor to get in touch with Mr. Abt.
What does it indicate why the Civil Liberties Union was the second choice?
He said he was a member of that organization and would like to have a lawyer who was a member of that organization represent him.
Does he personally know Abt?
I don't know.
How would you describe his mood?
Well, he appeared to be calm and...
Is he defiant?
I didn't understand you.
Is he defiant?
Defiant? He did not appear to be defiant. He discussed the matter with me in a very rational way and in a very calm way, and we discussed the matter, and I satisfied myself that he knew what he was talking about and didn't desire my services or the services of any member of the Dallas Bar Association. I don't know.
You didn't discuss it?
I did not discuss the charge with him. I just...
As a lawyer, you feel the fact that he does not have one here would hurt the prosecution's case.
I do not believe so, since he is not asking for a lawyer to represent him at this time.
Do you think it's possible to get an impartial jury?
Probably. In Dallas it is.
The question was asked, may I ask it again, is it possible for this man to get an impartial jury? Would you answer that again, please?
Well, in my opinion, it is.
I think he can get a fair trial in Dallas.
I think he can get a fair trial in Dallas.
We understand, sir, that you and the Bar Association will help him get an attorney only if it is not Mr. Apt or the ACLU. In other words, if it is a Dallas attorney. Is that correct, sir?
Well, I have no control over any other attorney. I have no control over any attorney except myself. It is the feeling of the Dallas Bar Association that an indigent defendant should be represented. And one of the programs of the association is to furnish lawyers to represent defendants in criminal cases who are unable to provide their own attorneys.
Have you had any calls from anyone in your organization about handling this case?
I have had some inquiry about whether or not there were any Dallas lawyers representing this man, and I made inquiry and determined that apparently there are none at this time. He hasn't requested any representation.
Is the Dallas Bar Association integrated bar that is a part of the Supreme Court?
It's a voluntary bar association. The State Bar of Texas is the integrated bar. The Dallas Bar Association is a voluntary association.
Does the representation of indigent people include communists? Has a communist ever been so represented in Dallas?
I don't know.
Did you mention anything about his financial means?
I did not. I merely asked him whether or not he desired to have an attorney appointed by the association to assist him, and he said no.
Were these calls from people in the attorney profession, or were they from citizens?
They were other lawyers that I'm acquainted with.
They were anxious to...
No, so they made inquiry as to whether or not the Dallas Bar Association was doing anything to see whether or not this man could obtain local representation, and I decided I'd find out.
Were these local members who called?
I have not talked to any attorneys at all about it.
Would you be willing to represent him?
I do not practice criminal law, and have never tried a criminal case, so I don't know the answer to that.
Thank you, Mr. Nichols. Mr. H. Lewis Nichols, the president of the Dallas Bar Association, returning from a visit to the fourth-floor jail cell of Lee Oswald. He has just conferred with him there and says that he is satisfied Oswald is able to obtain counsel. Charles Murphy reporting from the corridor of the Dallas Homicide Bureau in Dallas.
Shortly after his visit from Nichols, Oswald was moved through the corridor to the interrogation room through a swarm of reporters and photographers. Here again is Charles Murphy reporting from Dallas.
Crush of reporters, cameramen into Homicide and Robbery Bureau for the second time today. His second appearance before Captain Will Fritz. He was down earlier from his fourth-floor jail cell. That was about 10 o'clock. He was there for about 1 hour, then was returned to his fourth-floor cell. Since then, he was visited by his Russian-born wife and their 2 young children, but only briefly, and at another point by his brother, Robert, a young salesman from Denton, who 4 years ago disavowed his brother's profession for communist. Lee Oswald has been returned to the interrogation room of the Homicide Bureau here in Dallas City Hall for further questioning. Authorities at the City Hall say they now have an ironclad case against Oswald. They call him the assassin of the president and the man who shot and killed policeman J.D. Tippit. Charles Murphy reporting from Dallas.
It has been a very busy and sometimes confusing day in Dallas. For a summary of the developments and the events there in Dallas, Texas, we go to Tom Pettit, WBAP TV, Fort Worth, Dallas.
District Attorney Henry Wade of Dallas County is the man who will prosecute Lee Oswald. Wade said today he will ask death in the electric chair for Lee Oswald. Tonight, Oswald still is held at the Dallas City Jail. He still is being interrogated from time to time. The chief interrogator, Homicide Captain Will Fritz, says he is a cinch case. He is the man who killed President Kennedy. Police Chief Jesse Curry, who had first announced Oswald as the prime suspect, said at one time today that the FBI had Oswald under surveillance without informing the Dallas police. Then Chief Curry made this statement.
On out, I want to correct anything that might have been misinterpreted or misunderstood, and that is regarding information that the FBI might have had about this man. I do not know if and when the FBI has interviewed this man. The FBI is under no obligation to come to us with any information concerning anyone. They have cooperated with us in the past 100%. Anytime there's any information that they feel that might be helpful to us, they have always come to us with us. Last night someone told me, I don't even know who it was, that the FBI did know this man was in the city and had interviewed him. I wish to say this, of my knowledge, I do not know this to be a fact, and I don't want anybody to get the wrong impression that I am accusing the FBI of not cooperating or of withholding information, because they are under no obligation to us, but have always cooperated with us 100%. And I do not know if and when they have ever interviewed this man.
Just to make this clear, Chief, you were talking about Oswald and the reports that the FBI had information about him before the assassination.
That's correct. And I wish to make this statement that I do not know, of my knowledge, whether they have anything on this man or not, or whether or not they have ever interviewed him. And I do say this, that they have always in the past, if they had information that they thought would be helpful to us, they have come to us with it.
Had you been given an erroneous or unreliable report that they had some information about him?
I don't know. Someone last night told me this, and I don't even know who told me, but they just said that last night that the FBI did know this man was here. I wish to make this statement that I do not know whether they knew it or not, and I certainly am not saying that the FBI knew something that we should have known, didn't tell us. They're under no obligation to us, but they have always cooperated with us.
Chief, can you tell us when Oswald was questioned this morning if he continued to deny his guilt, to deny that he had anything to do with the killing?
That I don't know, because I haven't contacted the captain since he's been with us.
Chief, now that you have made the record clear as to the matter of FBI cooperation, can you tell us where you now stand in the matter of prosecuting this man?
Well, so far as I know, we're right where we were last night, because I don't know what has developed in the questioning this morning. We are still trying to establish verification on the gun, where it came from, and we're still, yes, the rifle. We're still interviewing many witnesses that were in the area. We have appealed to any citizen who might have been in the area, that might have taken any pictures, that might have seen anything, to come to us. And actually, we probably will have, well, there's no way of estimating how many statements we will take. We have several people taking statements now.
Chief, was the subject of a polygraph, a lie detector test, broached with Oswald, and if so, what was the outcome?
I understood that it was offered to him, and he refused it.
Do you know when this occurred?
Yesterday, I understand.
Did he give any reason for refusing to take the lie detector test?
I understand he said he didn't have to take it and he didn't want to.
There was something about a pop bottle being found up there on that floor up there. Was there one, and were there prints on it?
I don't know. That's the first I'd heard of that.
Chief Curry, what are your plans now in dealing with Oswald himself? Will he be interrogated here further, or will he be transferred to the county jail to await the presentment to the grand jury?
He will go to the county jail. I don't know just when, but I'm thinking probably sometime today. I couldn't be sure. It's more convenient here to have him near us where we can talk to him when we need to, but we probably will transfer him soon.
You may then question him again before he is transferred
possible
to the county jail.
It's possible, yes. Has an attorney turned up for him yet? I have not heard of one. I understood that his mother was obtaining an attorney for him this morning, but I haven't heard. I don't know.
He told us as he left this morning that he would like to contact a Mr. Apt of New York City to serve as his attorney. Do you know who he was referring to?
No, I don't.
Information on the rifle and the
No, sir, we haven't had a return yet.
As far as you know so far, is there any evidence that there's anybody else involved in this?
No, sir, not that we know of.
Was Mr. Molina being arrested or just
He came in voluntarily this morning. They went to his home last night, and he invited them in. They had a search warrant, but it wasn't necessary to use it because he invited them in and told them they could look around, the officers. And then after they had talked to him last night, they left him at home, and he agreed to come in this morning, and I think he's somewhere in the building now.
Chief, as far as you are concerned, does the investigation at this hour point toward the possibility of accomplices?
We don't believe so at this time.
You have no information linking Mr. Molina with the case?
No. The only reason that we wanted to talk to him was the fact that we do have him listed in some of our subversive files, and he did work in the building.
Mr. Molina, Joe Rodriguez Molina, was a co-worker of Oswald. He was questioned, but he has not been charged with anything. So the focus of attention is on Lee Harvey Oswald, 24 years old. Oswald had been held overnight in the Dallas City Jail after he was formally arraigned well after midnight on charges of murdering President Kennedy. This is he this afternoon.
I've been photographing a T-shirt, and now they're taking me to the line up among these men. That will be kicked out. Right?
That was Lee Oswald in the T-shirt he has worn since he was arrested. And if perhaps you did not hear, he was requesting that police officers provide him with a clean shirt so that he could be photographed in that rather than in the T-shirt in which he's been photographed ever since he's been taken to police headquarters. During the day, Oswald's mother, Marguerite, and his wife, and their two small children, posed a rather pathetic scene at Dallas Police Headquarters. They and Oswald's brother are said to be trying to arrange a lawyer for Lee Oswald. So far, he has no attorney. That is his Russian-born wife. She refused to say anything except get away. And that is his mother, also refusing to say anything. For the time being, Lee Oswald has refused an offer of legal assistance from the Dallas Bar Association. This afternoon, the mother, the wife, and the two children were escorted into the jail section for a brief visit with Oswald. Oswald is the ex-Marine who once tried without success to secure Soviet citizenship. He is described by officials here in Dallas as sane and sharp, but he will be given a psychiatric examination. He admits he was in the building at the time of the assassination of President Kennedy, but he denies any knowledge of the event. Now, upcoming, he faces what is called an examining trial, then presentment to the grand jury for probable indictment. And District Attorney Wade thinks it will be mid-January before the trial of Lee Oswald can begin on charges of United States. The evidence, as it is known here against him, will consist so far mainly of witnesses putting him in specific places at specific times, plus what officials call physical evidence. They refuse to say what that is. Governor Connolly of Texas, who was wounded in the same attack which took the life of the president, tonight is described here as being in satisfactory condition. His son, John B. Connolly III, will be his personal representative at the funeral of the late President Kennedy. Finally, we have an interview with the priest who administered the last rites of the Roman Catholic Church to President Kennedy. He is the Reverend Oscar Huber of the Holy Trinity Church in North Dallas, near the hospital where Mr. Kennedy died. In an interview with news reporter Bill Seymour of WBAP-TV, Father Huber had this to say.
Upon arriving at the hospital, a policeman took me to the emergency room immediately. And there the president was lying on the portable table. He was completely covered with a sheet. His wife was standing beside him. And I immediately proceeded to administer the last rites to the president. I removed the sheet so that I could anoint his head, giving him the sacrament of extreme unction. Previous to this, I had given him conditional absolution. This was followed with the apostolic blessing. The sacraments were given conditionally because we did not know whether he was living or dead.
The doctors did not inform you then when you walked in as to his condition?
No, they did not. There were doctors there and Secret Service men, I presume, and policemen. But no one said anything to me whether he was living or dead.
Did you speak to Mrs. Kennedy at any time?
I did after that. I expressed my sympathy and the sympathy of my parishioners to her. Told her we was terribly shocked at hearing this sad news. And she thanked me very graciously for coming down and taking care of the president, of his spiritual needs, and asked me to pray for him. I assured her that I would. Immediately after that, I followed with prayers for the dying and some prayers for the repose of his soul. And we also recited together the Lord's Prayer, the Hail Mary, and a short invocation. May God grant eternal rest to his soul.
What was the reaction of the people in the emergency room at this time?
Those who knew the answers to the prayers, of course, responded, including the president's wife, certainly. And everyone there was in a state of shock, as if they could not believe that such a thing could happen, that the president would be assassinated.
Was Jacqueline Kennedy, did she show any outward signs of emotion, or was she composed?
She was very much composed. She was seemingly paralyzed or in a shock. She spoke at times softly, rather softly, but without any emotion. She was not crying. I could not understand how she could hold up under these circumstances.
Did you at any time in the emergency room see the family of either the vice president or of the governor?
No, I did not.
You strictly...
I do not know any of them. I did not.
Have you, or do you plan to conduct any special masses for the president?
Well, that same evening of his death, I celebrated a requiem mass for the repose of his soul at 5:30. The church was practically filled with people at Holy Trinity Church. And on Tuesday evening of this week, a solemn requiem high mass will be celebrated for the repose of his soul at 5:20 in the evening.
The Reverend Oscar Huber, and tomorrow will be a day of prayer in Dallas. That is the story tonight in Texas. This is Tom Pettit, NBC News, reporting from Fort Worth, Dallas.